ready for learning. I love it. Boys and girls, my name is Mrs. Burton, and we are so excited to be here with you today. Actually, I'm an instructional coach, which you hear that word coach, and I know you have them here, and sometimes we think sports has nothing to do with sports. Actually, I'm just another teacher, and I get to work with amazing teachers like yours, and we're figuring out and learning the best way to teach you reading and writing and math. But today, we're focusing on reading and doing some reading work together. Sound good? Yes. Awesome. And so, and today's a little bit different too, because we're all kind of learning together. So it's going to be a little bit different in that sometimes somebody's going to be teaching, and then we're going to like swap out teachers. And so I know, just like because we did this actually in first grade this morning, and the first graders were like, they were great listeners. It did not distract them at all. So I know this is not going to be a problem for you, but because that allows us, for each of us to take like a different part of the lesson and try out our teaching. But more importantly, we just want to see like how we can best support your learning is what this is all about. So thank you so much for letting us learn with you today. The other thing that we might do is sometimes when we're teaching, we might need to talk to each other. So what I'll do sometimes is I might push a pause button, and either you can like freeze, or I think I trust you enough, like if you talk quietly to yourselves while we're talking, that's fine. Because we might want to talk about what we're noticing so we can know how best to teach. Okay, does that sound good? Yes. Awesome. Bless you. Awesome. All right. So then, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Yeah. And the only other thing, teachers, so as we're coming up, so I have a mic here, but then I'll just, as you come up, this will be our baton, passing it out. So I will pass this off to you, and here's the test. I'll even hold it for you.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Let me grab my sheet too. And this is Miss Morales, right?
I'm Miss Morales.
Yeah.
I'm Miss Morales. Good afternoon. We've been working on identifying new learning, and today we'll read a nonfiction text about climate change and global warming. What do you know about climate change and global warming? Can you turn and talk to your partner and talk about it right now?
What do you already know? Go ahead and turn and talk.
Turn and talk time.
And I'll put this up here so when we bring them back, we can revisit. We'll just kind of restate those at the end. And this happens, right? I know we had planned to put these teachers on the front end. We can put them on the back end. It's not a big deal. And this is a two-part where we kind of want to listen in and see what their background knowledge is.
So what do you know about global warming? Global warming? How about climate change? Do you know about climate change? Yeah?
And this is too where sometimes it's nice, and teachers, sometimes it's nice rather than kind of calling on, when we come back, rather than calling on specific students, what we might want to do is just say, I heard you say this, I heard you say this. Okay, we'll come back together.
I heard you say something. What did you say?
I was saying that I was thinking global warming was like when something was warming about the world.
Yes, awesome. Can somebody add on that? Can somebody add something on that? Don't be shy.
I think the climate is like when the weather changes.
When the weather changes. Awesome. Can someone say something else?
Actually, we'll come back because I think we really want the connect and engage to be short. I'm going to let you hold that, to be short. And so, are there other things we heard them saying?
It's a warming of the world, of the whole world. It involves the whole world.
That global warming of the whole world. I heard people talking too about it getting warmer and colder in certain places, that temperature, you were saying that? Awesome. So that way it's a nice way to kind of sum it up without kind of going down tangents.
Okay. Today, the lesson is going to be about the objectives. We have the I can statements, and the I can statement. The first one is I can listen to my inner voice as I read nonfiction text or new information. And our second objective would be I can stop, think, and react to new learning by jotting down notes on a Post-it.
Wonderful. And so boys and girls, and I was going to take this next part. So boys and girls, too, so we're going to be practicing as we read this text, identifying our new learning that we have. And for me, I know when I was reading this, there was a lot of new learning. And actually, I love this text because when I look at the table of contents, there are so many choices because we know when we read nonfiction, we don't have to go in order. And when I look at the headings and the kind of the sections in this text, this whole first section is all about clues about climate change all over the world. And so that's where I started. I picked one that looked interesting to me. And so the one we picked that we're going to kind of show you how to do this work and just kind of a quick reminder of what it looks like to identify new learning, we picked changing evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. And so you know what? We kind of wanted to do, I'm going to turn there now, page 32. Changing evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. So already I know this whole article or this section, this passage, is going to be about climate change, right? And how the ocean is going to give us clues about climate change and global warming. But there is another part here that I noticed, another interesting word. Changing evidence from the ocean. All right, so we're going to get clues from the ocean. Changing evidence from the ocean conveyor belt. Huh. And as I'm just thinking about that, I'm thinking, all right, I'm trying to think, what do I know about a conveyor belt? And so I'm thinking, have you ever seen like a conveyor belt in the grocery store that you put your food on? And once you buy your food, you put on the black conveyor belt and it takes it, drops it off. Oh, can you picture that conveyor belt? It drops it. But what happens when the food gets dropped off? Where does that belt go? So here you drop off your food. Let's say I bought some apples. I put them on, here's the cash register. Oh, I don't know why my cash register looks like a flower. I'm really not sure. But here's the black conveyor belt. I put them on, and the apples are going to go this way, and then they get kind of dumped on that metal tray. But it's a belt. That means it's connected, kind of like a circle. So kind of goes around like this. So what happens to that black metal conveyor belt? Where does it go? Goes down under and comes back again. Isn't that interesting? So, I'm trying to think, like, how is the ocean, how is the ocean like a conveyor belt? So we're going to read and find out. Do you already have some thinking about that?
Like when the water is used and then it comes back around.
Water is used and then it comes back around. And teachers already, I fall into this where like you see them and you want to call on them. And I think it can be hit or miss. Like sometimes you want to keep that energy going, and especially around an idea I know that we don't have a lot of thinking around. I thought that might be a good thing, but knowing too, like it could have taken us way off. But that thinking is going to help us. So thank you for sharing your thinking. All right, thank you. Thank you. We can pass the baton.
Okay, and I'm going to be here to model for you. And I know what your inside voice is thinking right now. Model? He doesn't look that good. I mean, he's good looking, but not that good looking. But
Come on, Mr. Estes.
but to focus on the inside voice, I mentioned your inside voice. Your inside voice is actually one of two important elements in identifying new learning. Okay, what you need to identify new learning is the text and your inside voice. And the inside voice has background knowledge that'll help you better understand the new learning that you are receiving today. Okay? Now, the first part that I'm going to read to you, the first paragraph, is, go ahead and read it. Since long ago, people sailing the seas have been aware of currents, rivers, of water in the ocean that move in predictable ways. One of them was Benjamin Franklin, who recorded water temperatures as he crossed the Atlantic. I got to stop right there because my inside voice, it's firing off, okay? It's firing off, and it's telling me, whoa, Benjamin Franklin? That's the dude that, and I'm sure some of you already know, but that's the dude that we've learned has helped us discover electricity. And so I'm identifying new learning by going into my inside voice and identifying the background knowledge that I already know about Benjamin Franklin. And so when I read that part, my inside voice, and I use language that I'm familiar with, and I hope that y'all do too. You use language that you're familiar with so that you are easily capture whatever information that is presented to you for the first time. So I'm like,
Yeah, what was that new learning for you?
the new learning was Benjamin Franklin measured the ocean temperatures. So again,
Jot it down.
what I would do is I would write it down on a Post-it note. As soon as it comes to mind, I jot it down on a Post-it note. I write, again, whatever my inside voice, whatever that familiar inside voice is.
There's a pen right over there.
Okay. Thank you.
And let's just go ahead and show them how it's
Thank
done.
you to my lovely assistant. And so my inside voice says, whoa,
Inner
Benjamin Franklin, okay, my inner voice says, whoa, Benjamin Franklin is the same guy that discovered electricity, and now he's measuring the ocean currents, okay? So I write
So
that
what might you
down.
say? Is there a,
Anyway, if I look at my sentence stems here, I probably would say, I can't believe that Benjamin Franklin, again with the microphone,
No, I'm sorry, anyway.
I can't believe Benjamin Franklin, the same guy who helped us discover electricity, is the guy who is now measuring the ocean temperatures.
Perfect.
Okay?
You jot that down.
Okay, so
and we'll
we
stick
write
it
it
in the
down.
book. Yeah. And you know what else I was thinking here? It also talked about, and teachers, we didn't talk about that part, but it kind of talked about those ocean currents again. And so, and I thought, were we going to model, were you going to talk about those ocean currents, or do you want me to do that now? Okay, I'll wait then. I don't want to steal your thunder. Okay. Look at him. What do you see him doing? What do you see him doing? Thinking. He stopped and he jotted down his thinking. And we have to write incomplete sentences? No. We just write just enough to hold our thinking so that we can go back and talk about it later. And you know what I forgot, guys? Would you be more comfortable? Do you want to come up here on the rug? I don't know if that's something you normally do, or do you prefer to stay at your seats? They normally go. So, you know, I'm going to give you the choice today because this is going to be a short lesson. So if you want to come up, you can, but if you want to stay where you're at, you can do that too. Well, no, we're just modeling. So you're right. This is teachers. Yeah. Well, I think if we had, so teachers, it's a great question. So boys and girls, I'm going to kind of push that pause button. So Mr. Estevez was saying, you know, do we want to model questions? And I think we could. I think if we're deciding we want to do that, but otherwise what can happen sometimes is if we're wanting to keep this a short lesson, we can start adding too much. So my gut right now is like, let's keep it a quick model. How you modeled that new thinking about Ben Franklin. We didn't know he measured ocean temperatures, and we'll move on. We'll keep it short, is my gut. Are you good with, does that make sense? Do we all agree? Okay. But it's not to say it would be wrong to go that route, if it's intentional. Let's talk about that when we go back to the room too. Awesome, all right. Stick it on here. You're writing a novel there, Mr. Estevez.
Sorry.
Just enough to remember your thinking.
'Cause I'm
Over here.
thinking of everything
You have
I'm doing.
thinking of lots, I know. It's right over here. We'll stick it over there.
Okay, there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your thinking with us.
Thank you. You done already? Yeah. All right. This over here.
All right, you know what? And do you want me to hold the mic for you? Okay, so that you can hold the book.
Okay.
Well, you decide what you can juggle.
Let's see what we do.
Oh, here.
Everybody have the Post-it notes with them? Writing down ideas and the questions.
You know what? Go before I count to 3. Go get your post-it notes and a pencil and come back to the rug. If you're sitting on the rug. 1. I'm on 2. 2.5.
Come on, come on, come on.
2 3/4. 2 7/8. 3. Okay. And so let's 2. Where did we leave off?
Here, I'm starting at paragraph 2.
Perfect.
All right.
Right.
So,
So and I think we just say, because we're going to continue modeling, right? So we're going to keep reading. Watch what Mr. Molina.
Molina, yes.
Watch what Mr. Molina does. So he's modeling, showing us how do we identify new learning?
scientists discovered that when the warm Gulf Stream reaches the North Atlantic, it gives up heat, which is very important to weather and climate. This heat makes Europe warmer than it would be otherwise. Wow, that's very interesting.
Because you
I
had
wanna
background
write that
knowledge in
down.
that, right?
Yes.
Well, do you just want to share, I think, your background knowledge? Let's just share it with them rather than writing that down. Because you'll write down
What
what
I'm-
you're learning. Yep.
So, does anybody have an idea or
Remember, we're just
any
modeling,
type
so
of
you can go ahead and show them.
in regards to what the Gulf Stream is? Gulf Stream, yes, sir.
I think is the Gulf Stream supposed to be like the Gulf of Mexico? Or yeah, is it supposed to be like a river that goes into Mexico?
That's fantastic learning. What's your name? Gino Gomez. Very good. You said you hit the nail on the head exactly. It is like a river. It's a bunch of currents like a river that starts at the Gulf of Mexico. Anybody been to Corpus before? Fantastic. Okay, it starts around there, the Gulf of Mexico, and like a river, the currents go all the way up here, up the eastern coast of the United States, and this warm water travels all the way up to Canada, across the Atlantic Ocean, thousands of miles into Northern Europe. So Northern Europe's receiving this warm water all the way down to where we live. Isn't that amazing?
And that's something, that was background knowledge you had already. You knew
Exactly.
that part, right?
Yes, so do you see this little island right here on the western part of Europe? This is called Ireland. I lived in Ireland for about 5 years. And in the wintertime, on the southern coast of Ireland, it was very rare that you would see snow. It didn't snow there. There was no snow or ice because of the Atlantic Gulf Stream would sweep up around here and create warmer, milder winters. But you know, the interesting thing was the countries next to Ireland, such as England. Who's heard of England before? Or France. The Gulf Stream did not affect it because it didn't hit those countries, so they would have more severe winters. They would have harsher winters. They would have a lot of cold, snow, and ice. But Ireland was lucky. They would have the milder winters because of our Atlantic Gulf Stream. So they have us to thank, don't they?
So that was background knowledge from Mr. Molina. But if that's new learning for you, that Gulf Stream carries that warm water and makes Ireland warm, you can jot that down. If that's new learning for you, you can jot it down. All right, and then we'll keep going.
Yes, okay.
We'll give them a quick
Okay,
minute. I see some are
great.
jotting. We'll give them a quick minute. So actually, you can turn and talk even. What are you thinking so far? Do you have some new learning? Go ahead and turn and talk, or finish writing. We'll give them a quick minute, and we'll just pick one and
Great.
listen.
Great.
Awesome. And then, so the next part you'll go into is the conveyor belt business and the new hub, right? Isn't that some learning? Perfect. Awesome.
You already modeled that, so.
I'll load it, so it'll be
and then
quick
I'll
for you.
kind of- Yeah.
It'll be real quick.
Yeah.
And then you'll just kind of, just the way Mr. Estevez did, like writing it down on a Post-it, stick it in a book.
Okay.
All right, we're wrapping up some of you are jotting, that was new learning for you, so I love it. You're jotting it down, and go ahead, and if that's new learning for you, put an L with a circle around it. That's how we code
circle.
new learning. Awesome. And remember, just write just enough to remember your thinking. That new learning, what seems important about that? Another minute, we're gonna wrap it up, we're gonna keep reading.
I need you to, in a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to hold that while
Oh,
you're reading?
that's
Is it
great,
easier?
yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the awkward mic. All right. Wrap up writing. Eyes back up here. If you need to go back and finish it later, you can. All right, we'll keep reading, so let's listen.
As the water gives up its heat, it cools. Colder water is denser than warmer water and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. This creates a very cold current that runs back south from the Arctic Ocean beneath the Gulf Stream. The two currents are like a conveyor belt carrying the Southern Ocean's warmth north, then flipping around to bring cold water south. Let me show you that for just a quick second here. So, as I mentioned, the Gulf Stream comes and hits Northern Europe. The warm water stops right about here. When the warm water hits here, what happens? It hits the colder water. The cold water sinks to the bottom. It's thicker than warmer water, so it sinks to the bottom. It's dense, okay? That colder water that comes from the Arctic Ocean up here comes down, and so that heads south. So we send up the warm water up to Northern Europe, and then the colder water comes down south over back to us like a conveyor belt, you see? So the waves are turning, the rivers, you have this internal river that's coming, that the currents are moving up, warm water up, cold water back down, kind of like the HEB conveyor belt. That's very interesting. I never knew that there was warm water Gulf Stream along with the cold water stream as well. So I'm going to write that down real quick.
Pens over there. I think the Post-its are over there.
Okay.
Did you steal them, Mr. Estevez? Mr. Estevez has the Post-its.
No, there you are.
Here we. And so, boys and girls, I just thought too, because that I had some background knowledge that I knew cold water sinks and warm water would rise. But like you were saying, that's kind of new information. That all right? So you'd have this cold water, kind of goes over the top, but then it sinks down. And that as it gets warm, it's going to come back up. So I think that's interesting. And it creates, that's how we get the movement of those currents. Cold water on top, warm water moving back. Fascinating.
So
Can't
what-
wait to see how you phrased your new learning.
What I
What's your
put
new
there,
learning?
I put, that's interesting that the ocean has its own conveyor belt.
Very cool. Awesome. So we'll stick that right in the book. Stick it over here. If that's new learning for you, go ahead and jot it down. That the ocean has this conveyor belt of cold water and hot water. Awesome. Can pass the mic, pass the baton.
There you are, sir.
And we'll give them a quick minute to finish writing too. They have so much new learning that you couldn't really tell. I'm so proud of you boys and girls. You're really listening. You're taking in this information. And we can even walk around and just peek at their Post-its a little bit while we look over their shoulders. Awesome. Good job. Wow. Very cool. Get another way to. And I see some different ways that we're showing our new learnings. Tell me your name. Alex said, wow, I never knew. Thanks, Alex. Yeah. The conveyor belt. Let's write it up here. Am I spelling this right? Conveyor belt. Somebody asked, what is that called? This is a conveyor belt. Oh, thank you. OR? Wasn't sure. Conveyor. It sounded like an ER, but it's OR. So I just fixed it. All right, we'll wrap up writing. If you need to go back and finish later, we'll finish, but eyes up here for right now. We're going to go on.
So we've been talking about these currents, and scientists call these kinds of ocean currents thermohaline currents because they are caused by differences in temperature and saltiness. Now, in this sentence, boys and girls, there's a word that I haven't seen before when I was reading this, and the word is thermohaline. I want you guys to, we're going to chunk this word so that we can remember. If you want to hold it. So I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to model for you guys, thermohaline, and you guys are going to say it with me. You guys ready? Thermohaline. Now you guys do it with me.
Thermohaline.
One more time.
Thermohaline.
Now, who's heard of this word? Nobody. I've never heard of this word either. But if we look at this word and we wrote it here, we have, and we can, yes, let's go ahead and underline. We have the word thermal, and we have the,
You're a different color.
yeah, and haling, if we break up the word. Now, thermal, raise up your hand if you've heard the word thermal. Now, I see a lot of hands up, boys and girls. I want you guys to turn
That
and
means
talk.
background knowledge, right?
Yes. Turn and talk with your partners and discuss, where have you seen this word thermal before?
Turn and talk. Tell your partner. And this is too, I don't want them talking to me. I want them talking to each other. So if I'm going to do any coaching else, I'll coach them to what to say to their partner.
Okay.
And this might be too, let's do it again just for time's sake.
Okay.
Rather than calling and say, what do you think? What do you think? Just share, I heard somebody say this, I heard somebody say this, just to summarize the learning.
Okay.
Can we try that?
Yeah.
All right.
So let's hear the.
Yep, I know.
How much thermal energy? Like light energy.
Thermal,
Oh,
have you
thermal
heard?
heat.
Have you heard thermal before? Where have you heard that
Shows the
before?
temperature.
Over here?
From like thermometer.
Ah.
Perfect.
And what does the thermometer
Okay.
measure?
Yep.
Hot or cold.
Good. Good. Okay.
And sometimes if we don't hear it,
Okay.
I say, I might say it anyway. I heard, and I kind of throw it out there.
All right.
Yeah.
So I heard some good discussions, boys and girls. One of them was temperature. We see the word because of the word thermometer. Now, thermometer measures what? How hot or how cold the weather is, and the temperature. So, thermometer or thermal means and some of you guys have seen this word before, thermal. I saw a lot of hands go up. What about hailing? Who's seen that word before?
And maybe, do we want to read that sentence again? Because
Yes,
this is where
we
it's going to
can.
be guided practice, so.
Okay.
You're right, so we want to ask them, but let's read that sentence again, because you're right. So listen, see if we get some new learning about hailing.
All
Well,
right.
and I apologize too, because do we want to get a gauge? You're right, do we kind of want to get a gauge, like maybe just a thumbs up if they knew, if
For-
they've heard hailing? I'm kind of thinking no, but
Okay.
so it
So
might not be worth the time. So this is kind of, again, like I think the purpose of today, you're laughing at me, I know you're laughing at me. But I'd rather say my thinking process out loud right now because I want you to know kind of what's running through my head. And this is what we do all the time. Sometimes I know I spend too long questioning. So I'm just wanting to think, I only want to do that when I really need to. Anyway.
okay. Do you want me to read?
Yeah, don't you think? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scientists call these kinds of ocean currents thermal hailing currents because they are caused by differences in temperature and saltiness.
Read it one more time.
Okay.
Listen for the part we know, the background knowledge. But what's that new part mean? Listen.
Scientists call these kinds of ocean currents thermal hailing currents because they are caused by differences in temperature and saltiness.
What do we think? Haley, do you have some new learning there? Turn and talk.
Like the temperature of
Ah. Good. I heard that one. That was good. What's your name?
What are you guys thinking? Did you hear anything? What do you think hailing might mean?
Good job.
That thermal part means temperature. What did you hear? What did you hear as you're walking around?
Saltiness. The temperature.
Okay, most of them. There are a couple who didn't, but that's right. We'll just name it for them now.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I heard
right.
a lot of you say.
All right, boys and girls. I heard a lot of you guys say the temperature of the saltiness. And in this one sentence, they did use the word saltiness in there. So hailing means, what do you guys think? Salty.
Yes.
Good job. All right.
Wonderful. So that we have some new learning. We already knew this part, thermo. So measuring, so when we measure thermohaline, we're measuring the temperature and the saltiness of the water, and that seems important.
Was that new learning? Go ahead and jot it down.
We'll pass the baton. Who's next?
Okay.
We'll give you a minute to jot it down.
Who's next?
Lisa, come on up.
I have no idea.
Oh, yep, I think yep. This is the last part, isn't it? The freshwater salt. Yep. And so teachers too, like, I mean, what's your sense? And Lisa too, we can talk about this real quick. Like, whether or not, I think they're kind of with us. They're all jotting down new thinking. They have new learning. I think we'll do a quick guided practice, get a sense, but I'm thinking then we'll send them off to independent. But let's think about that when we're done with your part.
Okay.
All right, and so, just read it. Yep, so that one sentence, right? So, actually this one.
Okay.
Oh, no, am I wrong? Oh, no,
Yeah.
you're right. Yep, from here, and then this is that one sentence that we really want to, this is the one we want to repeat.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I have it right here.
Okay.
Scientists realize that global warming is melting the polar ice and wondered, would Arctic meltwater affect the conveyor belt currents? Now listen to this, guys, okay? Because this has something to do with the question, and it'll help you kind of think about the question.
See if we have new learning.
Fresh water makes the ocean less salty and less dense.
So
Okay?
we just read about how that warm water goes up there, melts the ice, and that's fresh water melting. And then read that line one more time.
Fresh water makes the ocean less salty and less dense.
Ooh, one more time. Fresh water.
Fresh
She
water
has it memorized now.
makes the
You
You checked me. Fresh water makes the ocean less salty and less dense.
If you have no learning, turn and talk. What does that make you think? And if you want to hold up, hit the mic. And we'll listen and see. different answers. And we'll do the same kind of thing. We don't necessarily have to see if we hear, or do you want to specifically intentionally call it people at this point? If we want to keep it short, we might just, again, want to summarize what we hear. Okay. That's what we're debating. Right now we're debating, do we want to call on people, or do we want to summarize kind of the learning again? You know, what do you guys think? Teachers in the back row. That's what I'm thinking. Awesome. And so sometimes too, if I don't hear them say it like that, I might just say, I heard you guys say, you had new learning, that water can be, that fresh water, it makes the, it can make it let the water less salty, so it dilutes the water. So yeah, watch out, yep. All right. Oh, look, you came back together. So we heard a lot of you guys say that. A lot of you had some new learning that you jotted down. Did you get a chance to jot down your new learning? Yeah? So that new learning about that sentence, So as that fresh water makes the ocean, fresh water can make the ocean less salty and less dense. It also kind of makes me have a question. Like, I wonder what that, we didn't really talk about this, did we? How does fresh water, so what does that mean to make the water less dense? So I don't know, so sometimes when we have new learning, it also makes us have a question. So if you have that question too, you can write it down. What does it mean, less dense? Did I miss anything? We good? All right. Awesome, Lisa, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm gonna have you guys do now is, remember, you all have your books in front of you inside your bags. So now you're gonna take the time and you're gonna practice this on your own. Exactly what we've been doing together. We did this yesterday, just us, and now we did this again. But we all have like audience here. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna each one of you have 2 books. You're gonna take one of your books, whichever one you want to read first, and you're gonna read through it, and you're gonna make sure that you're jotting down those notes using that language. Okay? Wow, I never knew that. Whatever new learning it is that you did. Okay, and remember that we want you to be jotting down your notes with that L so that you're actually thinking, this is new information for me. Cool?
And I love how, oh gosh, I forgot your name again, buddy. What was your name?
Fabella.
Say it again.
Fabella. Alex.
Alex. So how he used a different stem. Rather than just saying, I didn't know that, he said, wow. So even in his new learning, he kind of included a reaction. And so you might try that too today. The other thing I'm going to have you do, if this is something you kind of want a little, if this is something that is actually really, you're good with this, you know how to do this, you feel comfortable, kind of give a thumbs up next to your heart. If this is something, identify new learning that's maybe a little bit more challenging or you want to talk a little bit more about, give me a sideways thumb. So I should see either a thumbs up, you feel good about it, sideways thumb, I'd like to talk about it more. And thumbs down, if you had a sideways thumb or if you do want to talk about it more, I'm going to have you come to the rug and we can do some work together on the rug. And with our books and maybe with this book a little bit more too. All right? Off you go.
Let's go.
And what time are we at?
We're at 2:20.
2:20. All right. So we'll give them about 10:15. All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Awesome. I'm glad you found that. Good job. And teachers, we'll give them a minute to get started. Look at them. They're getting out their books, getting lost in their texts. Oh, look at these great books that you guys have. Awesome.
Yeah, the sticky notes that you were using from before, just go ahead and leave them on your desk. You want fresh stickies for your new book that you're going to be
You know, I was wondering,
your new learning.
could they even put those on the back of the book they're going to read?
Yeah.
Then we'll know they're different.
Yeah, that works too.
So
You wanna
boys-
stick them on the back
Yep.
of your book.
Whatever book you're reading, take those stickies that we did together from our whole class book and stick them on the back so that we know they're different. Can you do that real quick? Awesome. Thank you. Just because I don't want you to lose yours, can we separate them out? So that we is that all right? Do you mind if I do that? Oh, look, you're going to do it. All right. Awesome. Thanks, bud. So teachers, you know what? We'll kind of come back here just and collect for a minute while they're kind of getting started. We want to give them a minute to get started. It'll give us a quick minute. Any questions? Any thoughts? How does it seem? Like, you know them too. Like, does it seem like they're pretty with it? Even just for the second day of doing this strategy, like, especially those teaching. Oh, you guys, come over here. Especially those teaching, like, what did you think? Did you feel like they were with you? They were getting it? You're following right along, yeah. Any other thoughts?
I think it's a little different too because it's we're like, stopping it and another teacher comes in. So it wasn't as like smooth, but for the most part they were.
Oh, they told, yeah.
As soon as you can post it.
They're like,
Once they realized, oh, we can write. Yeah, so that's exciting that they were doing that. I'm sorry, I'm not holding it. Wonderful. All right, well, I just want to give them a quick minute. Any other questions or thoughts?
It can be noticed that the kids are used to turning and talking, because the minute they were directed to do that, they instantly start sharing.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, very important for this lesson to be successful. They need to be able to sharing their ideas. So.
Like we talked about, that's like the main way that we can make that learning visible, and then it gives us a chance to really go around and listen in. And there were some turn and talks where they weren't on as much. You know what I mean? I think it might have been some had the saltiness, some didn't. But so that really gives us a chance to really check learning. Good point.
Yeah.
Great point. Any other comments or questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, really quickly, I just had a quick point of clarification. The notes that you jot down for your book that you're reading right now, take them off the pad and stick them on the page, okay? Just in case, so you're putting them on your page in the book that you guys are reading, all right?
Sometimes that comes up a question too, because I know we're new, some of us are newer at this, and the question, how do we manage some of those Post-its, And so I think they can either put them right in the book, or sometimes you might have a journal, and I just have them take your best thinking and put it in your journal, put the title of the book at the top, and put them in your journal. It's kind of a way so that, how to preserve, and it becomes a record of our learning and our thinking, Does anybody else, any other thoughts on how are you managing Post-its, or how is that going in your classroom?
In my case, I wasn't very sure about what to do with the sticky notes.
Right, I know.
So what I did was, and I don't know if I was supposed to be doing that or not, but I brought it as one of the student samples. Is a thinking map, where like a circle map, since we are studying energy, and we were reading like a selection of on energy. They were all writing in their sticky notes, and then we shared what they wrote in their sticky notes, and then we posted them into the thinking map.
Yeah. So it can be a whole class record as well.
So
Absolutely. Somebody's gonna say, they love them, you kind of said. Just. They love them. It's very motivating. Like we said earlier, engaging. All right. And so, all right. So, boys and girls, here's the if you are feeling like you'd like a conference, or you want to talk about your thinking, you know what I'd like you to do is take a Post-it. Just need one. So if you'd like a conference or to talk about your thinking, take a Post-it and just put it at the very top of your desk, and that will tell me, oh, I want to come over and we can have a conversation and talk about your thinking a little bit. Okay? So I'll let you do that. So I'll let you keep going. So that's sometimes a nice way too of figuring out who needs a conference, of giving them ownership to talk about their thinking, about just putting a Post-it on the front of their desk. And it's a nice visual way then for me to kind of skim and scan and say, okay, who do I need to go and touch base with? And here's the thing, for a strategy like this, they're all getting it. It's not a very difficult, challenging strategy. When we get to some of the others, drawing, those inferring lessons where we have a question and we're drawing conclusions, it's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be a little trickier. And I assure you, we'll have more strategy groups,
I like your idea of the squads because it makes it a lot easier, and then you can.
I'm so sorry. They're going to yell at me.
I like your idea about using the journals, the spiral journals, so that they can keep track of their thinking with their Post-its. And that's something that I can definitely pick up and also check for understanding as well.
Awesome. So I'm thinking right now, because we don't necessarily have a strategy group, I'll look and see if we have a conference. If somebody wants a conference, feel free to come on in and listen in, because we'll talk about the structure of a conference when we go back downstairs. But for right now, let's just walk around and kind of peek in on their thinking. If we want to ask them to share their thinking, we can. I stole. Oh no, these are ours. And teachers, the other thing we're looking for is, did they use a variety of different kinds of sentence stems? And two, because you know your kiddos, so I just want you to think about, oh, who's doing my share? I forgot already. Lisa did the, over there, so she's going to look, all right. But if you see something that you want us to highlight, let us know. Sorry, I'm going around. I'm not phone. I'm not stalking. So, have you found? I see. I figured out that's what you're doing. You're like looking around. Have you seen any that you want to highlight yet?
Yeah, like this one is really cool. The world's biggest reptile, saltwater reptile. I didn't know reptiles like saltwater.
Is that Serenity or is that? You know what? I'm only wondering. We might want it because I've highlighted him a couple times.
Okay.
Let's just see if we can pick somebody else. And what were you thinking about that one? Just the cool. Got it.
He's something different. Yeah, they're all using.
Got it. Okay. Oh, you have something different here too. Can I talk to you about this? Tell me about the new learning that you had.
I learned that how the fire started in Chicago.
Oh, that's the Great Chicago Fire. You learned about that? And so I see you wrote that. I love how you started, I learned. So that was kind of a new one, wasn't it? Rather than just saying, I didn't know. You said, I learned that. That's a really powerful word, isn't it? To learn something, isn't it? That's neat. But do you want to tell? So how did you want to tell that new learning? How did you start it? You didn't start it. How did it start? What did you realize?
That
What did you learn?
the cow, it kicked the lamp and the lamp got on fire and started.
Could you write that on there so that you'll always have it? Awesome. So what I noticed over here too, so he had, I learned how the Chicago Fire started, but he didn't have how it started. So that could be something that he could teach the class. And if we highlight this one thing, what did you notice? How about this? How about I highlight him? You'll see me do it, and you can highlight him. Sound good? Yeah. Buddy, you know what? You did something that's so important. I'm wondering, would you mind kind of teaching that to the class? Because I think some of us probably, can we do it together? Can I share your thinking? Can I share it? Because I think sometimes we do that where we just say, I learned this, but we don't give enough detail. And so what you're doing is so important of adding detail. Okay, we'll do it together, all right? What's your name?
Benjamin.
Benjamin, I'm proud of you. Good job. They could go on and on. I mean, here's the thing, like, this is what happened, I think it was last time, but like, they could go on and on, they're so engaged, and I said, this is such a great time when we can do small group work, we can, pull, when they're so engaged. I mean, I love it just to stand back, and when you just skim and scan, it's so powerful, like how engaged they are, it's beautiful. Talk about those goosebump moments we talked about earlier, definite goosebumps right now.
Based on their learning, I'm sorry, they're gonna yell at me.
Just based on my observations and their response to the text, I can tell that they're extremely engaged with
They
what
love
they're
those
reading.
things, yeah. And that's kudos to you, Ms. Nunez. Like, they have these great, beautiful texts for them to read. You can tell they're so engaged. Yeah. And I think we'll just do it back here and have them turn. Is that all right? Okay. Boys and girls, I'm going to... I'll give this to you. Boys and girls, I'm going to stop you for a quick minute. It almost breaks my heart to stop you because it gives me goosebumps when I look out at you. As teachers, we were talking about how impressed we are with your learning and your reading and your thinking. We look out and see you like so engaged, reading your text and jotting down your thinking and your new learning and your reaction to that by saying, wow, or cool, or I learned. We're so proud of you. And you should be, more importantly, you should be proud of yourselves. Do you feel proud of yourselves for this work you're doing? And I see smiles. I can tell you feel proud of yourself. So as we close today, we're going to do a share. Do you normally do the share circle? Or not always? Is it vary? Perfect. I was just curious if I needed to preface that. So today we're going to share, and you know what? Actually, Benjamin is kind of, together we're going to teach something. Because I'm going to highlight what Benjamin did. Benjamin, can I borrow your book? Oh, here, will you come here? Just come here for a quick minute. Right next to me. Will you find that page for us? So Benjamin had some new learning. And you want to read that for everybody? Read what you had at first. You said,
I learned how the barn had caught on fire.
Yep, go ahead.
I learned how the barn had caught on fire.
So that's what he had at first. You know what? I'm going to give you this. Can you stand right here, buddy? Yeah, perfect, right here. So he learned how the barn caught on fire. And what did I give you a compliment, right? Because you used something different. How did you start you said, I
Learned.
And I hadn't seen many of us using that. And I think that's a powerful word. It shows that this is new for me. But then, what did we realize we needed to add more? A little bit more what?
Detail.
We needed to add more detail. And he added what he learned. How did the Chicago Star how did it start? So tell us the whole thing. Read the whole thing now.
I learned how the barn had caught on fire. A cow was going crazy and kicked the lamp and caught on fire.
Awesome. Is that more detail? You did it. So, boys and girls, I think Benjamin is teaching us something that we want to make sure we add enough detail to our thinking so that we can really remember what's important. Thank you, Benjamin. Awesome. Did you have someone you wanted to highlight? Yeah.
Yes. I wanted to highlight here what Joshua had written. He started his little note a little differently as well. It's not even up there if you really think about it. He started with, I wonder how great white sharks protect their babies. So this lets us know, this shows us that as we're reading, as we're learning something new, we begin to wonder and question. So it'll help us even try to figure out what else we want to know about.
So do we want to have them now kind of pick, remind me what, yeah, you could tell them.
So now I want you guys to go ahead and look through your notes, look through all your stickies. I want you to find something that you were very excited that you either learned about, thought was cool, something that you were just amazed by.
I added that twist, excited.
And I want you to go ahead and turn and talk with a partner and share that new learning that you have. Share something that you thought was very interesting.
And teachers, we can listen in. Oh, and you know what? Do you want to, you're all good.
I didn't know that dead cells are made of a protein called keratin.
And then you could say, does he have any questions or comments about that? Does that make you think anything? Say, what do you think?
What do you think?
You could say, I don't know, I'd have to think about that more.
I don't know how to think about that more.
That's okay. And now you can say to him, say, do you have any new learning?
Do you have any new learning?
Yes, I can't believe they were 70 feet long and they weighed 30 tons.
And then you can ask him, say, what do you think about that? Did you guys share your new learning already? Yeah? You excited about it? I love how the teacher said, she said, like, what are you excited about? Very cool. If you have another one, you can share it. I think we can wrap it up. Do you want me to wrap it up? Oh. So boys and girls, once you're done sharing, eyes on me, and I'll know that we're ready to move on. Thank you so much. Thank you for having your eyes on me. Again, we're so proud of you, boys and girls, that you are really listening to that inner voice when you're reading nonfiction text, and that really listening for that new information. You're coding it with an L, and that you can stop, think, and react to new learning by jotting down notes on a Post-it. And that you're really using a lot of these different kinds of stems, because that kind of shows your reaction. Tell me your last name. Romero. Just like Miss Romero said, I love how she said, share some new learning you're excited about. So I hope you found some new learning. Thumbs up if you found some new learning you're excited about. Awesome. I'm going to turn you over to your teacher. Thank you for letting us learn with you. I'm so proud of you. A big silent, this is how you applause or clap your hands in sign language. You do this. Nice job. They're all yours.